thanks to the support as a channel member, Michael McCloskey. Well, we've got a good news, bad news situation going on here, folks. We are off the bottom of the Premier League, which is excellent news. The gap between us and safety has more than doubled, though, which is not so good news. Hello and welcome to Club 4, Part 2 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have 2 games for you in the Premier League and possibly some transfer shenanigans as well. We're away against West Ham and we're at home against Leicester. Since you were last with me, where did we do? We just showed you the Leeds game. We then lost again against Bournemouth. At this point, we're very tight defensively, but we can't score goals. But we had an international break, so we arranged a couple of friendlies against some local teams, really just to try a few things out. I actually played the friendlies. Can you believe it? I know, I don't remember the last time I played a friendly, but we ended up moving away from the control possession system towards the vertical tiki-taka that we were just toying with using towards the end of life at Schalke. And that's the difference between the two performances there. I don't know the difference between Norwich United and Norwich CBS. Might be that they're a worse team, but we looked very good playing the vertical tiki-taka. So we brought that back into a league game against Wolves, which we lost. But Stoke, who were one place above us in 19th, we went to Stoke, and it wasn't on a Tuesday night, unfortunately, but we did go to Stoke and we scored 4 goals. That's more goals than we'd scored in our entire time. I think, in fact, that is as many goals as I've scored in the remainder of my Norwich career. That needs fixing probably, but massive win. We were then unlucky to lose against Brighton, but we've now followed that up with a couple of draws, and there are definitely signs that we are starting to move in the right direction form-wise. Unfortunately, so are a few other teams. If we look at form, the last 5 games, I have only managed 5 games here, I think. Yeah, I've done 5 games. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I've done 7 games. But either way, in the last 5 games, our form is 15th place form, which is great. That's what we need. We are level with the Kev ratio in the last 5 games. That's not going to be enough to save us, though, because unfortunately, Brentford, Fulham, Villa, they're all getting too many points. Even Southampton are 5 points ahead of us. When I arrived at the club, we were only 3 points from safety, although we did only have 3 points of our own. So I've got to hope that we can, with some transfers, start to close that gap. It is going to be a tall order. And the board aren't upset yet, though, which is good. I'm glad the board aren't upset. Transfer-wise, it's proving to be pretty frustrating. We have a lot of players leaving. We're starting to clear out some of the players that I just don't plan to use, or in the case of Pavon, a player who was out of contract at the end of the season, was 33 and didn't want to sign an extension. So although we're playing him every game, I'd rather cash in now and have some money to reinvest in January. So Dalberg, Fry, Pavon, Marmouche for £7 million, which I think is a cracking piece of business for a 30-year-old who I was just never going to use. But I mean, he's only a £1 million profit for the club. And then Gonzalo Ferrolano, which is probably the most controversial one. But he was, if we rank our strikers according to star rating, he was the 5th best striker at the club. And several of the ones above him were younger than him. He's 24. There was a few 23-year-olds above him. Yes, he's got 8 goals in both of the last 2 Premier League seasons, but he's not looked a threat this year. And to be able to bring £13.75 million in when I'm on 90% retained transfer revenue, it just felt like a no-brainer. So all of those combined have put our transfer budget, which started at 24 million, up to 47 million pounds before we've signed a player. But then the frustration begins. Frustration number 1, we went back to Schalke. We tried to sign Leonardo. We know Leonardo has a release clause. We went and paid the release clause, and he didn't want to discuss terms with us because we're not good enough. That was sad. Atletico Madrid are looking at him, so that's probably fair. What isn't fair? Asa Walsh. Remember this guy from Peterborough, the English wonder kid who I was very, very happy to get in and steal. He never actually left and still has an active relegation release clause at £12.5 million. So I went and paid that. But then that deal was cancelled because Peterborough are under a transfer embargo because there's a takeover going on. As far as I'm concerned, what's that got to do with Asa Walsh's contractual right to be able to leave on his relegation release clause? That feels like that shouldn't have happened. But until the Peterborough takeover is resolved, we're not going to be able to. I mean, in fact, no, that was PLC takeover. That's ridiculous. That would be a publicly trade. Yeah, no, that would be mad. But yeah, until the current takeover nonsense is done, Asa Walsh is off the table. We're now also trying to sign this guy, Gabriel, who'd be the direct replacement for Pavon on the left-hand side, a Brazilian. Of course he's Brazilian. I was quite hopeful of getting him, but then Spurs are now in for him as well. That's another one that's a release clause. So I suspect we're not going to get him, all of which means we're 9 days from the transfer window opening. We have 5 first-team players leaving in 10 days, and we haven't actually got a player agreeing to come in just yet. So, yeah, it's not ideal. We will keep trying. I know what I want. And I don't think I'll get all of this, so in order of preference, I want a Mezzala. So that's job number 1. That's what Leonardo was going to be. We know he did a good job there at Schalke. I also want a deep-lying playmaker, whether it's one to play here and drop Slits or the other guy, Diallo, back to play there as defensive midfielder, or one to sit here, and then Haruna, who's 19 years old, and would eventually be the guy who probably ends up playing there. He could just drop out of the team for a bit. That's what Asa Walsh was going to be. In the ideal world, it was going to be Leonardo and Walsh there with Gabriel on the left-hand side. Left wing, priority. Pavon's leaving. We don't really have anyone to come in. It'd be a case of pushing Sessegnon forward at the moment and bringing another left back behind him, which I don't really want to do, even though a lot of the time Sessegnon is our biggest attacking threat. And then if we manage to get those 3 players and still have some money left, I'd like a natural sweeper keeper. I am looking at both of the goalkeepers I had at Schalke as options. They've both got release clauses in the 15 to 20 million pound mark. But I suspect we're not going to be in a position to cash either of those in. And the only other goalkeeper who's showing up on my scout reports at the moment is Ocampos, who we had at Peterborough. The problem I've got with being in my 3rd job in like a year and a half is all the players I want, I've already signed for one of the other 2 clubs, which is a problem. And then if we get all of that, I'd quite like a striker because as good as Alvarez has been for Norwich over the years, 5 goals isn't enough. We don't look like much of an attacking threat in front of goal. I would like to bring in someone who's going to get more goals on a more consistent basis, but realistically, that's not going to happen this transfer window unless we sell most of the squad, which would probably be a bad idea as we are slowly but surely turning form around. So, all that being said, before we can do any of that, we've got to play West Ham, and then we have what appears to be some kind of winter break in the Premier League. We're not having the time off of training, so I don't think it's officially a winter break. I just think it's a strange way fixtures have fallen. Are there other fixtures going on? No, it's just 2 weeks off. I don't really know why that's happening. I guess we have a winter break in the Premier League now. But that's when we're going to hopefully try and get some players in before Leicester. So this is going to be the last game with this team because, for a start, Pavon won't be here anymore. So it's Gunn in goal, who I am forcing to play as a sweeper keeper, even though he doesn't like it, because I just think we need it with the way we play the back 4 a little bit higher up. We need a guy coming back on cover, and we need him stepping forward a little bit. So Gunn is just being forced to play that way, and he'll like it. Sessegnon, McKenna, Wilmot and Wagyu are the rest of the back 4. The youngster Haruna at the base of the midfield, and then Slids and Pierre and Andreas Pereira ahead of him. Pereira is another one who's on the transfer list because he doesn't want to renew his contract. So if we can get any money for him in January, we will. And then Pavon and Luis Fernando out wide with Alvarez, how would you say that, up front. We do have a young right back who's out on loan. I think I looked at him in the last episode. He can play right back or centre back. So I will definitely be looking to bring him back into the club in January, and he'll be another option for us in the defence. So we're not completely abandoning the idea of using the players that we've already got here, like Haruna, like the youngster who's out on loan. If we've got good young players here at the moment, they're going to get more game time than they probably ever have in the history of the world here at Norwich. The one other thing that's gone on is my assistant manager, just in the last couple of days, has walked out to go and become assistant manager of Sheffield United. So I am in the market for a new assistant manager. I don't have one for today, and hopefully we'll have someone lined up before the next match, because I like having an assistant manager, quite apart from anything else. I like the selection advice. I like the fact they help with the opposition instructions, all that kind of stuff. I like the fact they handle training. So I've spent quite a lot of time bringing in new coaches and backroom staff. We've got much better coaching setup than we had when I arrived now. In fact, I think it's for defensive training. We've got the best, we're ranked #1 for defensive coaching in the Premier League. So we have got a decent coaching setup, but now we don't have anyone running it. So I do need an assistant manager pronto. Not that I'm particularly keen to bring in either of the people I've worked with at my last couple of clubs, because I got sacked from one. I'm going to spot with the Premier League with the other. I think we could probably bring in a new face. I did try and bring Neymar in as a coach. He didn't get a work permit, which figured we're trying to be more creative attackingly. Neymar would probably help with that. Might even be able to convince him to play, but alas, not. That has been a very uneventful first half. I've just realised I'm still on an attacking mentality off the back of the last match. This is actually something that I did back on, I want to say FM18, 19, whenever I had Vermonti in non-league to legend. We used a 4-3-3 vertical tiki-taka on an attacking instruction quite successfully, home and away. Probably not the thing to do here at Norwich. Just as I notice I've done it, we do go behind, so we probably have to leave it on now, which is probably not ideal. It's not being particularly effective either, because we've only had 5 shots in the game. Only 2 of them have been on target. We've not really created much at all so far. I didn't even look at how good West Ham are. West Ham feel like one of the better teams that we would have played against so far in my time here at Norwich. It does mean that we've got all of the big boys to play fairly close to each other back to back. Pretty much as soon as the new signings come in, if we can get any in. So it's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire for them. And with us already being, 6 or 7 points? I think it's 7 points from safety at the moment. We could potentially be 10, 15 points adrift by the time we get into that run of games I identified in the last episode, which is like our last 10 games. The new players will be in. We play against teams in the bottom half for 10 games in a row. I am starting to worry we might be so far behind by then, even if we play really, really well for that run, it won't be enough and we'll probably go down anyway, which I don't see as a disaster. I'm not against this Norwich team getting relegated and doing a full rebuild over the next 18 months, coming up as champions next year with a squad that's much better suited to staying in the Premier League than this squad is, than my Peterborough squad is. I just need the board to be on board with that and offer me patience, because if I get sacked again, bearing in mind I was bottom in the Premier League when I left Peterborough, if I then have 2 sackings directly following that, I really think we're starting to get to the point where I might not be able to walk into another Premier League job very easily, because I will have effectively failed at this level 3 times at that point. I'm very lucky to have got this job. Oh, God, it could be a disaster. Right, Glenmore is someone I'm really interested in having a look at, because we've not been able to use him yet. He's a youngster who came in the summer, 23 years old, 3-star current ability, 5-star potential. He's mainly a striker, but can apparently play on either flank, and he's been injured the whole time I've been here. This is my first opportunity to see him at all, so we're going to put him on that left-hand side as a winger, just to have a little look at him, really, to see if he might be the answer to our frustrations going forward. Because, like I say, with Alvarez, yeah, he's consistently over a long term scored goals, but look at the way he's playing today. Look at the form that he's in. I mean, he'll have a good game occasionally, like he did against Stoke, but all too often, since I've been here, we've had a 6.3, a 6.3, a 6.3, a 6.0. This is only my 8th game, and he's on a 6.2 again today. So in 5 of the 8 games I've managed, he's been on a 6.3 or less. That doesn't really fill me with confidence. Right, we're going to stick more up front and have a look at him up there. De Luca is another youngster, young French attacker who can play in the attacking midfield roles. We seem to have a lot of players that fit this profile, sort of 23, 24 years old. This is why I wasn't against selling Ferrolano, because there's multiple players in this squad that are strikers who can kind of play out wide as well, and they're sort of 3-star players. You saw we've got Gelhardt down on the bench as well. We've got probably 5 or 6 of them, and we need to get rid of, we're playing one striker, probably 2 or 3 of them. I don't know whether we'll be able to get rid of them all for value in January, or whether we'll have to wait until the summer. But again, it's an opportunity for us to get rid of some areas of the squad where we're a little bit overloaded with players that we don't really need and reinvest that in other areas, like central midfield, where everyone in central midfield, with the exception of Pereira and Haruna, everyone we've got at the club is a ball-winning midfielder. And it just doesn't really help. I don't want to play with 4 ball-winning midfielders. Yeah, we weren't very good there at all. 2 weeks to do some transfers. I might even slot in a couple more friendlies again. Just continue practicing to play this system. Probably won't manage those ones. We're going to stick with this for a bit and just practice it against some local victims. And then hopefully we come back for the Leicester game with a couple of new players and a little bit of confidence under our belts, and with a better chance of maybe winning a football match, which would be nice. Well, that wasn't quite the 2 weeks I had in mind. We got a couple of friendlies in, scored 31 goals. So that was a nice start. We also got rid of the players that we want, or a lot of the players that we wanted rid of. A lot of these were already pre-arranged. I don't even know if there's any others that were added to this, but they all left. And we did manage to get Asa Walsh in as well. So we cashed in his release clause at £12.5 million. So I am reunited with the English wonder kid that I did sign when I was at Peterborough, but only managed to use for a few games. He was still showing as a wonder kid when I first approached him, but I think once he hit his 21st birthday, he lost his wonder kid status. But as far as I'm concerned, English wonder kid. He's in and he is going to be important. Everything else is a massive frustration because players are going elsewhere. They're refusing to discuss terms. It's just all an absolute mess. As you can see, I'm trying to reunite with Hoyenhal from Schalke. We're just waiting on a work permit for him. I don't even feel bad about going and doing that to Schalke because I signed another goalkeeper who was just as good, who can just take over from him there. So fingers crossed we get him in, cashing in his release clause. We're also continuing to raid the Bundesliga, and we're trying to get this guy, Diego Noll, who's a 6'4" centre-back. I think we probably do need to strengthen defensively, and I think those two will do a massive job for that. Pedro Luis is a player I've been trying to sign for ages, and he just keeps refusing to discuss terms, but I will keep offering him a contract until we can sign him, because look at him. Oh, won't you just look at him? Imagine. Just imagine. I can understand why he's refusing to discuss terms with us. And then we've got a few gambles. In fact, a couple of loans first. Matthias Zamorano is a defensive midfielder who could sit at the base of the midfield as the deep line playmaker. Trying to get him on loan from Manchester City. They wanted a compulsory purchase price of 22 million if we stayed up. I've managed to negotiate them down to an optional future fee of 22 million because if we do stay up, I don't necessarily want to have to buy him, but we might still buy him if we stay up, but we shall see. Staying up is a long shot at this point. And we're also trying to loan Juan Diego Miranda from Hertha Berlin, who's a right winger, just to give us a little bit more creativity out wide on that side. He's dirt cheap to loan because of how low his wages are. So he's a bit of a no-brainer to bring in. And then a couple of risks. Alban Zanelli is a central midfielder, again from Mönchengladbach, who can play as an attacking option or a playmaking option in that central midfield role, where we might still be losing Andreas Pereira, so we're going to need another body in there. And then the biggest risk of all, because he's not scouted yet, but we were linked with this guy in the transfer window is open thing, and I saw that he was a Brazilian under-20 international in a position that we want, with potentially 20 for acceleration and pace and passing. I thought, you know what? Yes, we're going to try and scout him, but in the meantime, buy him before somebody else does. So we are. I'm not going to confirm that until he's actually been scouted, but we're waiting on a work permit for him as well. So at least, as long as he gets the work permit, we've got him tied in for when his scout report comes in. But it does mean we don't really have new players for this game against Leicester. We're actually on a bit of a weakened squad because we've lost players that we had previously. For now, we're going to use Asa Walsh as a Mazzala. I don't think this is going to be his long-term location. I think he probably sits where Pereira is sitting at the moment. But for now, we're going to play him there because he's the only midfielder we've got with any kind of energy, although he is not fully fit. He was nursing an injury while he was still at Peterborough. Alvarez is going to come out onto the left-hand side as an inside forward. We did it with Sieb to quite a lot of success at Schalke. Hopefully we get the same out of Alvarez. He wasn't scoring enough goals playing up front. And we're going to try Gelhardt up front, even though he's leaving. if he scores, we can't keep him anyway. The transfer's already arranged. But I'm hoping we get that Brazilian guy. If not, we do need to locate a striker if Alvarez is going to be our long-time option on the left. Well, obviously, we've got the Brazilian guy potentially coming on the left. There's so much going on. This is the team. We're playing Leicester. Leicester are 10th in the Premier League. We could really, really use a win. I don't think we're likely to get one yet because obviously we're still very much in the middle of a rebuild. And at the moment, we've got fewer players than we had 2 weeks ago when we last played. We have got a new assistant manager in, though. So that's something. And the young right back who was out on loan at Reading, we recalled him. And he can't play for us because it would be a third team he's played for this season because he was at River Plate. We signed him in the summer, apparently, loaned him out to Reading immediately. And he's played for both River Plate and Reading this season. So he will be going back out on loan, I guess. That was unfortunate because he would have been a nice little addition to the squad. His current transfer range is between like 50 and 70 million or something absurd. We've got a superstar on our hands there, but can't play him. And we need him because we can't defend. 40 seconds on the clock. It goes from bad to worst. I really hope Hoyenhal gets a work permit because at least he's a goalkeeper I know and trust. Kept a clean sheet against Bayern Munich last season. It's more than Gunn's ever done. I mean, it might not be. Maybe he's kept a clean sheet against Bayern Munich as well, but not to my knowledge. So fingers crossed Hoyenhal comes in and is the same kind of saviour that he was for me this time last year. Oh, I like the fact I'm reuniting with a few of my previous players. Should I go and get Theodros off of Leamington as well and just have one from each former club? I'd still like Leonardo, but I don't think there's any chance of us getting Leonardo. He looks like he's off to bigger and better things, as you would expect from a Brazilian wonder kid. Sessegnon now to Walsh. A first look at Asa Walsh in a Norwich shirt. He plays Sessegnon in. Sessegnon back to Alvarez. And now Sessegnon again. Can somebody please cross the ball? He gives it to Alvarez. Alvarez shoots from a tight angle. And really, he had three men square of him. He probably shouldn't be shooting from there. It's so frustrating because my big criticism of him is he's not scoring enough goals. He gets in a position like that. And I really wish he hadn't have had a shot because we might be at 1-1 if he'd have just squared it. Wagyu now coming into the penalty area. Fernando's in space. Thinks past his man. Cross comes in for Walsh, who has the shot, but it's blocked. And we're looking better. We are looking like a team that might be okay. The big fear I've got is just how big that gap is. We need Brentford and Southampton to just be rubbish. We need there to be at least one team that we can still chase. If we end up too far adrift, it doesn't really matter how good the team gets for those final few games. Like I was saying before, it will be too little too late. And then we've got a bunch of players who probably don't want to be dropping down to play in the Championship. Asa Walsh will start to get a reputation. Our fans were already a little bit nervous about whether a player who's recently relegated is good enough for us. Never mind the fact he's come straight in as the best central midfielder at the club on star rating. And he's an English superstar wonder kid because he went down with Posh last year. They're a little bit iffy about him. We don't want him to have a second relegation on his CV in as many years because he's a better player than that. We're ruining the boy's career. Right, Gunn actually decides to make a save this time, which is a lovely little novelty. And we are now looking at a second half where, once again, we're keeping things fairly tight, but not really threatening anything in front of goal. It has been the story of my time here. And it's not just that our attackers are rubbish. We're not really creating anything either. So it stems back. This whole area needs a massive refresh. But at the same time, we need a new goalkeeper and a new centre-back. I need more time and more money. This squad is not very good. Right, let's offer some encouragement. Because so many players have left and so few have come in, we've got very little option on the bench as well for this game. So I think we're going to struggle to force our way back in. But I mean, we are at times playing nicely. That was poor. I mean, that's just gifted a shot to them, but luckily it's a poor shot and Gunn is equal to it again. 8 points behind Brentford as things stand. We could really, really use an equaliser here. But it's Leicester once again starting things off with the throw from that far side. And if somebody could get a boot in here, that would be nice. Walsh is going to have to come off in a moment because he was only able to play 75 minutes. We certainly don't want to break our new superstar central midfielder, who is, I think the central midfield is key to us turning this into a team that can create some chances. That's why I'm trying to bring in 3 of them. Gelhardt's in here. Can he apply the finish? He can. Is it being given? We're looking over at the linesman. He's flag. I mean, he's motionless. It means nothing on FM22. I think that's been given, though. And Joe Gelhardt, after his transfer out of the club has already been agreed, has his first ever goal for Norwich. He was a £9 million signing in the summer. This is his 10th start for the club. He's finally scored a goal. And, I mean, it's a bit embarrassing, really, isn't it, that we're now selling him. Imagine if he scores in the next couple of games. He leaves on the 15th. Oh, God. This could be my worst moment on the internet. Right. We're bringing this guy, Palavecino, who we've just recalled. He was on loan at Nottingham Forest. I've recalled him because at least he's a different kind of midfielder. So will offer us a little bit more attacking oomph. So we're going to get him in there in place of Walsh. Don't expect to see too much more of him once the new boys arrive. But for now, he can come in and do a job. We'll also bring more on that right-hand side. He is a left footer, so he can go over there as an inverted winger. And that will do for now. We don't have much left on this bench. Like I was saying before, we're going to offer a little bit more encouragement. If we could somehow grab a winner here, that would be a real confidence boost heading into this second half of the season. But it is we're Norwich. It's Leicester who've got the ball again. And if somebody could do a tackle, he's got to be offside there. Surely he's got to be offside. He squares it. I mean, that's some good defending from us. But it just does. It comes straight back again. Gelhardt not able to win the ball or keep hold of it, and it just comes straight back at us, and we're forever under pressure. Right, let's make a final change. I'm looking at tired-legged players. We're going to bring DeLuca on up front. Gelhardt is tired and ultimately not going to be our player for much longer. So I'd rather DeLuca came on and grabbed all the glory of a winner. And because he's going to be one who is sticking around, and with Alvarez not scoring, he might be a long-term answer for us up front. But not today, apparently. I think that's a pretty good performance, and especially in that second half. And with new players on the way, I don't know. We shall see if it's going to be enough. As it stands right now, it's a 7-point gap between us and Brentford. Still half a season to play, but we do have a horrible run of fixtures coming up now. Manchester City, Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool, Everton, Man United, Man City, Chelsea in our next 8 games. Like I've been saying all along, the second half of the season will give us a chance. These next 8 games, we get 3 points from them. I consider that an achievement. I'm looking at Everton at home. I can't imagine we have any chance in any of the other games, but if we go another 7 games, because City's in the cup, but if we go another 7 games with only 3 more points, that's 25 games played, only 12 points on the board. Brentford and Southampton are going to be in the 20s by then, and we have, no matter how well we play them, it will be an absolute mountain to climb. It'll be fine. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. Thank you very much for watching.